Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Cheating Tales Lab. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Architect of Fate. Victor Blackwell stood at the edge of his penthouse balcony, 38 floors above Boston's financial district. At 45, he'd built Blackwell Security Solutions from nothing into a billion-dollar empire specializing in high-risk security contracts for corporations and governments. The city lights reflected in his steel-gray eyes as he sipped 12-year-old scotch, contemplating the empire he'd constructed through sheer force of will. His phone vibrated. The Saudi contract was finally ready. $15 million, cash, for providing specialized security for a royal family member's international tour. The Saudis insisted on cash. Victor insisted on results. That's why they came to him when no one else could deliver. "Are you coming to bed?" Natalie's voice floated from behind him. Victor didn't turn immediately. His wife of 7 years stood in the doorway, her auburn hair falling loosely around her shoulders. At 32, Natalie Reed Blackwell had the kind of beauty that turned heads in every room, which was precisely why he'd noticed her working as a hospitality coordinator at a security convention in Denver. "The Saudi contract came through," he said, finally turning to face her. $15 million. Cash drop tomorrow." Natalie's eyes widened momentarily before her expression settled into practiced nonchalance. "That's amazing, Victor." He watched her reaction carefully. 3 years ago, he would have missed the calculation behind her eyes. Now, he didn't miss anything. "We're celebrating tomorrow night. We're the black dress I bought you in Milan." It wasn't a request. Of course. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Later that night, as Natalie slept beside him, Victor reviewed the security footage from their home on his tablet. He watched as Natalie made a call from the guest bathroom earlier that day, speaking in hushed tones. Technology had its benefits, especially when you owned a security company. The directional microphones he'd installed 6 months ago picked up every word. "He's closing the Saudi deal tomorrow," she whispered into her phone. $15 million, cash. "Yes, I know what to do." "No, he doesn't suspect anything." Victor closed the tablet, his face expressionless. Betrayal wasn't new to him. His mother had abandoned him and his father when he was 8. His father turned to the bottle afterward. His first business partner tried to sell their security algorithms to competitors. Victor had systematically dismantled the man's life in response. Business, reputation, marriage. The lesson was clear. Betrayal had consequences. He thought about Douglas Reed, Natalie's brother, who'd been working for Blackwell Security for 5 years now. The man had talent but lacked Victor's ruthlessness. Victor had always sensed the underlying resentment from Douglas, the subtle disdain when Victor made difficult decisions that prioritized results over sentimentality. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Victor stared at the ceiling, planning his next move in the intricate game that had already begun. Chapter 2. The Contract. The Saudi delegation arrived at precisely 10 a.m. at Victor's downtown office. Prince Abdullah bin Khalid and his security chief, Fareed, brought the cash themselves, $15 million in specially designed carbon fiber cases. "Mr. Blackwell," Prince Abdullah said, shaking Victor's hand firmly, "your reputation precedes you." "As does yours, Your Highness," Victor replied. The prince was known for his extravagance and his enemies. The contract required Victor's team to provide comprehensive security for the prince's 21-year-old daughter during her 4-month global university tour. There were credible threats from political opponents, and the prince would accept nothing less than perfect protection. "The money is all here," Fareed said, patting one of the cases. "Untraceable, as requested." "Perfect," Victor said. "My team will begin preparations immediately. The advance team will arrive in Riyadh next week to coordinate with your security personnel." After the Saudis left, Victor's chief operations officer, Sofia Martinez, entered his office. At 43, Sofia had been with Victor from the beginning. She was one of the few people he trusted, as much as he trusted anyone. $15 million in cash, she said, eyeing the cases. "That's quite a security risk itself." "Already handled," Victor replied. "The cases have GPS tracking, and the bills are marked with infrared ink. Standard procedure." Sophia nodded. "The team for the princess's detail is ready. Logan's leading it." Logan Price was Victor's most trusted field operative, ex-special forces with a perfect record of successful missions. Good. I want daily reports directly to me, Victor said. I'll handle this one personally. After she left, Victor made a call to Reginald Foster at Boston City Trust. The old banker had handled Victor's most sensitive financial matters for years. Reginald, I need a special arrangement. Tonight. Of course, Mr. Blackwell. The usual discretion? Absolute. And I need something else, a duplicate set of cases. Identical to the ones I'm bringing in. Can be ready by 5. There was a pause. Yes, sir. I'll have everything prepared. Victor hung up and opened his computer, accessing the tracking software that monitored Natalie's phone. She was at the Seaport District, at a cafe she frequented. According to the records, Douglas was there too. Brother and sister having lunch. Nothing suspicious on the surface. Victor activated the remote microphone on Natalie's phone. Need to be careful, Douglas was saying. Victor isn't an idiot. He trusts me, Natalie replied. Besides, I've given him no reason to suspect anything. Everything's on track. And what about Caleb? Where does he fit into all this? There was a pause. He'll be waiting at the cabin. 3 days from now. Once we have the money, we disappear. New identities, new lives. I still think 15 million split 3 ways is risky. It's not enough to. It's enough, Natalie cut him off. And after tomorrow night, it won't matter what Victor thinks. Victor closed the program, his face impassive. So, Caleb Matthews, his wife's ex-boyfriend from before their marriage, was involved too. The pieces were falling into place. Victor had always known about Caleb, a struggling artist who'd never made it big. What he hadn't known was that the relationship had apparently never ended. He opened his desk drawer and removed a small black device, similar to a USB drive. Designed by his company's R&D team, it contained a sophisticated tracking system undetectable by standard scanners. The plan was taking shape in his mind. Victor didn't believe in emotional reactions. He believed in strategy. And by the time Natalie realized she was trapped in his game, it would be far too late to escape. Chapter 3. The Handoff. That evening, Victor brought the cases home, placing them deliberately on the dining room table as Natalie watched, her expression carefully controlled to hide her excitement. I need to attend an emergency meeting with the advance team, he told her, loosening his tie. The money needs to be secured until tomorrow's bank deposit. I could take it to the bank vault tonight, Natalie offered, too quickly. Victor shook his head. Banks are closed. We'll have to keep it here overnight. He watched her face fall slightly. There's a concealed safe in the panic room. Only you and I know the combination. This was a lie. There was no such safe. But Natalie wouldn't know that. Of course, she said, recovering quickly. I'll keep it safe until morning. Victor showered and changed into casual clothes. Before leaving, he embraced Natalie, kissing her deeply. I should be back around midnight. Don't wait up. Her hands lingered on his chest. Be careful. Always am, he replied, studying her face one last time, memorizing the deception in her smile. Instead of leaving the building, Victor went to the service elevator down to the maintenance level where Logan Price was waiting in an unmarked van. Everything's set, Victor asked, climbing in. Logan nodded, handing him a tablet. On the screen was a live feed from cameras hidden throughout the penthouse. All systems operational. GPS trackers are active in both sets of cases. Good. And the team? In position. We have surveillance on Douglas Reed and have located Caleb Matthews. He's at a motel on Route 1, has been there for 2 days. Victor nodded, watching the screen as Natalie paced the living room, phone in hand. After a moment, she made a call. It worked. Her voice came through clearly on the speakers. He left the money here. 15 million in cash. A man's voice responded. You're sure he's gone? Yes, some emergency meeting. He won't be back until midnight. That gives us plenty of time. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Is the alarm disabled? Not yet. I'll handle it when you get here. Just text when you're downstairs. Victor watched him passively as his wife prepared to betray him. After she hung up, she went to the bedroom and began packing a small suitcase. Your brother's on his way, Logan said, checking another monitor. Just left his apartment. And Matthews? Still at the motel. Hasn't moved all day. Victor nodded. Let's proceed as planned. Keep the teams in position, but no one moves until I give the order. On the screen, Natalie had finished packing and was now standing in front of the cases, running her fingers along the edges. She tried to open one, but found it locked. The key. Logan asked. In my desk drawer upstairs. She'll find it. They continued watching as Natalie searched Victor's home office, eventually locating the small key in the top drawer. She returned to the cases and unlocked them, opening one to reveal stacks of $100 bills. Her smile was triumphant as she closed it again. 40 minutes later, Douglas arrived. Victor watched as his brother-in-law entered the penthouse, looking nervous but determined. Did you check for cameras? Douglas asked immediately. Natalie rolled her eyes. Victor doesn't spy on me. He trusts me. Douglas looked unconvinced but didn't argue. We need to move quickly. The car's waiting downstairs. Together, they carried the cases to the elevator. Victor switched to the building's security feed, tracking their progress down to the parking garage where Douglas's BMW was waiting. Should we stop them now? Logan asked. Victor shook his head. No. Let them think they've won. The real game is just beginning. As the BMW pulled out of the garage, Victor activated the tracking program on his tablet. 2 blinking dots showed the cases moving through the city. Follow at a distance, he instructed. I want to know where they're going. The BMW headed north out of the city, eventually turning onto the highway toward New Hampshire. Victor had suspected they might head for the Reed family cabin in the White Mountains, remote, difficult to access, and perfect for hiding. After 3 hours of driving, the signal stopped moving in a heavily wooded area near Conway, New Hampshire. They've arrived, Logan confirmed. Satellite imagery shows a cabin about half a mile from the main road. Victor nodded. Is Matthews there? Logan checked another tracker. Yes, arrived earlier today. All 3 targets are now at the location. Excellent. Victor's expression remained cold. Now we wait. Inside the cabin, Natalie, Douglas, and Caleb were about to discover the first part of Victor's trap. The cases they had stolen contained not $15 million, but $1 million in real cash on top, covering stacks of counterfeit bills underneath, along with something else they wouldn't find until it was too late. Chapter 4. The Deception. The morning after the theft, Victor returned to the penthouse, feigning shock and distress when he found the money and his wife missing. He called the police, reporting both as stolen. Detective Olivia Wright arrived an hour later, mid-50s, with sharp eyes that had seen every kind of deception over her 27-year career. Mr. Blackwell, she said after the initial statements had been taken, you're telling me your wife disappeared with $15 million in cash that you were keeping overnight. That's correct, Victor replied, his voice appropriately strained. And why exactly was this much cash in your home? International client. Preferred cash transaction. It was meant to be deposited this morning. Detective Wright studied him carefully. You didn't think a bank vault would be more appropriate? The transfer was completed after banking hours. My wife offered to watch it overnight while I attended an emergency business meeting. Wright made notes. And you found this note? She held up the paper in an evidence bag. The note read, I and my lover needed it more than you to start a new life. Yes, on the dining room table, Victor confirmed. You've been married how long? 7 years. Any problems in the marriage recently? Arguments? Suspicions? Victor hesitated, as if reluctant to share. We've been distant lately. Work pressures, but nothing that would suggest this. Detective Wright nodded thoughtfully. We'll need access to your security system, phone records, bank statements. Of course, Victor agreed readily. Anything to help find my wife and the stolen money. After the police left, Sophia arrived at the penthouse. The police bought it, she asked. Victor nodded. For now, they'll investigate Natalie, which will lead them to Douglas and eventually Caleb. And the real money? Safe. Reginald handled the deposit this morning. While the police began their investigation, Victor monitored the GPS signals from the stolen cases. The 3 betrayers remained at the cabin, likely counting their stolen fortune and planning their escape. Meanwhile, at the cabin in New Hampshire, Natalie, Douglas, and Caleb celebrated what they believed was a perfect heist. $15 million, Caleb said, running his hands through his disheveled blonde hair. At 36, he never held a steady job, bouncing between art shows and bartending gigs. I still can't believe we pulled it off. $5 million each, Douglas calculated, his accountant's mind already dividing the spoils. More than enough to disappear and start over. Natalie sat on the worn couch, a glass of champagne in hand. Victor won't stop looking, you know. He doesn't forgive betrayal. By the time he figures out where we've gone, We'll be living under new identities in South America, Douglas reassured her. The contacts I made through Blackwell Security can get us what we need. What about the money? Caleb asked. We can't exactly walk into a bank with it. I have connections, Douglas explained. People who can launder it, make it clean. It will take time, but we'll get there. What they didn't know was that Victor had already anticipated every move. The counterfeit bills would pass initial inspection, but would fail any serious banking scrutiny. And hidden in the lining of each case was a sophisticated listening device, transmitting every word back to Victor. Back in Boston, Victor listened to their conversations through secure channels, gathering evidence and planning his response. In his office, he met with Reginald Foster to ensure the real money was properly secured. The $15 million is in the special account, Reginald confirmed. Untraceable, as requested. And the other arrangements? Reginald nodded. All in place. The properties have been acquired through shell companies. The documentation is ready when you need it. Good, Victor said. Now we move to phase 2. That evening, he received a call from Detective Wright. Mr. Blackwell, we've identified 2 persons of interest in your wife's disappearance. Her brother, Douglas Reed, and a man named Caleb Matthews. Does either name mean anything to you? Victor feigned surprise at hearing Caleb's name. Douglas works for my company. As for Caleb Matthews, I believe he's an old acquaintance of my wife's. From before our marriage. I see, Wright replied. Both men have disappeared as well. Last known location was heading north out of the city yesterday evening. Do you think they're all together? It appears likely. We're tracing their phones and bank records now. After the call, Victor summoned Logan to his office. The police are closing in. It's time to accelerate our timeline. Logan nodded. What's the play? Let's give them something to find, Victor said, pulling up a map on his computer. Here, 5 miles from the cabin. Plant evidence of their presence, but nothing concrete. I want the police on their trail, but always one step behind. And our team, keep them in position. No one moves until I give the order. As night fell, Victor stood again on his penthouse balcony, contemplating the city below. The betrayal stung, not because he had loved Natalie. Love was a weakness he had purged from himself long ago, but because he had allowed himself to be vulnerable. It was a mistake he wouldn't repeat. His phone buzzed with a text from Logan. Evidence planted. Police received anonymous tip. Victor smiled coldly. The trap was being set, piece by piece. By the time Natalie, Douglas, and Caleb realized they were caught in his web, escape would be impossible. Chapter 5. The Discovery. 3 days after the theft, the first signs of trouble appeared at the cabin. Douglas had attempted to verify some of the bills through a contact, only to discover they were sophisticated counterfeits. What the hell is this? He shouted, storming back into the cabin. He threw a stack of bills onto the table where Natalie and Caleb were eating breakfast. They're fake. Victor gave you counterfeit money. Natalie's face drained of color. That's impossible. I saw the Saudis deliver it myself. Well, your contact was wrong, Douglas snapped. Because these won't pass any serious inspection. Caleb grabbed a stack and examined it. How much is real? The top layer in each case. About $1 million total. The rest is worthless. Natalie stood up, panic rising. He knew. Somehow, he knew what we were planning. We need to leave, Caleb said urgently. If Victor figured out our plan, he might know where we are. As if on cue, Douglas's phone buzzed with a news alert. He opened it to find a Boston Globe article. Police search for missing wife of security mogul and accomplices in $15 million theft. We're all over the news, he said grimly, showing them the phone. Police are looking for all 3 of us. This wasn't supposed to happen, Natalie whispered. Victor was supposed to think I was kidnapped. The note clearly didn't work, Douglas interrupted. We need to split up. 1 million won't get us all new identities and a fresh start. No, Natalie insisted. We stick to the plan. We just need to be smarter. What they didn't realize was that Victor was listening to every word through the hidden devices in the cases. In Boston, Victor sat with Detective Wright in his office, playing the concerned husband. We've located your wife's brother's car near Conway, New Hampshire, Wright informed him. There's a family cabin registered to the Reed family in the area. Victor feigned surprise. Conway? I had no idea the Reeds had property there. We're organizing a tactical team now. Given the amount of money involved, we're approaching this with caution. Of course, Victor nodded solemnly. When do you move in? Tomorrow morning. I'll keep you informed. After Wright left, Victor contacted Logan. Police are moving tomorrow morning. We need to act tonight. The team is ready, Logan confirmed. What about the local authorities? An anonymous tip about armed drug dealers at a neighboring property should keep them occupied for a few crucial hours. As darkness fell over the White Mountains, Victor's private team moved into position around the cabin. Dressed in tactical gear with night vision equipment, they were indistinguishable from a police tactical unit, which was precisely the point. Inside the cabin, tension had reached a breaking point. We should separate the real money, Douglas argued. Each take a share and go our own ways. And go where? Natalie shot back. Victor will hunt us down individually even easier than together. Caleb, who had been staring out the window, suddenly stiffened. There's someone in the woods. The other two froze, peering into the darkness. I don't see anything, Douglas said after a moment. I saw a light. Just for a second. They killed the lights in the cabin and waited in tense silence. Minutes later, they heard it, the unmistakable sound of vehicles approaching, tires crunching on the gravel road. Police, Douglas hissed. We need to run. Now, they grabbed the cases with the real money and their emergency bags, heading for the back door. As they stepped outside, powerful spotlights suddenly illuminated the entire clearing. Boston Police Department. Freeze. Hands where we can see them. Surrounded by what appeared to be a police tactical team, the three had no choice but to surrender. They were handcuffed and loaded into separate vehicles. What they didn't realize was that these weren't police officers. They were Victor's private security team. The vehicles didn't head toward the local police station, but instead to a private airstrip 20 miles away. Meanwhile, the real police tactical team was engaged in a wild goose chase at a property 5 miles away, responding to a tip about armed drug dealers that would ultimately prove false. By dawn, Natalie, Douglas, and Caleb had been transported by private jet to a remote property in Montana, a large, isolated ranch owned by one of Victor's shell companies. There, in a modernized bunker beneath the main house, they found themselves in comfortable but secure rooms, separated from each other and with no means of communication with the outside world. Victor watched their arrival via secure video feed from Boston. The first phase of his plan was complete. Now the real game would begin. Chapter 6. The Confrontation. A week after the abduction, Victor arrived at the Montana ranch. The sprawling 500-acre property was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, with the nearest neighbor over 10 miles away. Perfect for privacy, and for what was to come. He was greeted by Logan and Sophia, who had arrived the previous day to prepare for his visit. Our guests are getting restless, Logan reported as they walked through the main house. Especially the brother. He's demanding to speak with you. I'm sure he is, Victor replied coolly. Are they still separated? Sophia nodded. As instructed, they haven't had contact with each other since arrival. Good. Isolation makes people more pliable. Let's start with Douglas. In a comfortable but secure room in the bunker below, Douglas Reed paced nervously. When the door opened and Victor walked in, he lunged forward, only to be restrained by Logan. You son of a bitch. Douglas snarled. This is kidnapping. Victor took a seat at the small table, entirely unfazed. Technically, it's citizen's arrest. You stole $15 million from me. Counterfeit money. You set us up. Did I? Victor raised an eyebrow. Or did you simply fail to verify what you were stealing before you committed the crime? Douglas struggled against Logan's grip. Where's my sister? Where's Caleb? Safe. For now. Victor leaned forward. You're in an interesting position, Douglas. Of the 3 of you, you had the most to lose. Career. Reputation. Freedom. Yet you risked it all. What? Douglas glared, but said nothing. Was it jealousy? Resentment? Victor continued. You've worked for me for 5 years. Watching me build an empire while you remained. What? Middle management. You have no idea what it's like, Douglas finally spat. Working for you. Watching my sister trapped in a loveless marriage with a sociopath. Victor smiled coldly. And yet, here we are. You're the ones who committed theft and fraud. I'm simply recovering what's mine. What do you want? If it's the money, take it. Just let us go. The money. Victor laughed softly. This was never about the money, Douglas. It's about consequences. He stood and walked to the door. You'll understand soon enough. In the meantime, think about what your freedom is worth to you. Next, Victor visited Caleb Matthews. Unlike Douglas, Caleb sat quietly, His artist's hands folded on the table. "Mr. Matthews," Victor greeted him. "We finally meet." "You're exactly as Natalie described you," Caleb replied. "Calculating. Cool. And yet, you chose to steal from me. Not very calculating on your part." Caleb shrugged. "Love makes people do foolish things." "Love?" Victor repeated, his tone mocking. "Is that what you call it? Seducing another man's wife for his money?" "Natalie was mine before she was yours," Caleb countered. "She never stopped loving me. And yet she married me. For your money. Your status. Never for you." Victor nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps. But that doesn't explain why she maintained the charade for 7 years. She could have left at any time." "She was afraid of you," Caleb said. "Of what you'd do if she tried to leave." "A convenient excuse for a woman planning theft on a massive scale," Victor replied. "Tell me, when did you reconnect with my wife?" Caleb hesitated, then sighed. 2 years ago, at an art exhibition in New York. She was there alone. And you immediately began plotting to steal from me?" "No, that came later, when she told me how unhappy she was. How controlling you were." Victor leaned back, studying the man who had been sleeping with his wife. "Mr. Matthews, I'm going to give you a choice. The same one I gave Douglas. You can help me understand exactly what happened. Every detail, every plan. Or you can face the consequences alone." "What consequences? You can't keep us here forever." "Can't I?" Victor smiled. "Who knows you're here? The police are looking for 3 fugitives who stole $15 million. If they find you, it's prison. If they don't," he spread his hands, "you simply disappear." Finally, Victor visited Natalie. When he entered her room, she was standing by the window, staring at the mountain view. She turned slowly, her face a careful mask. "Victor." "Natalie," he replied evenly. "Comfortable. As comfortable as a prisoner can be," she said. "Where are Douglas and Caleb?" "Close by? I've had interesting conversations with both of them." She crossed her arms. "And now you're here to what? Gloat? Threaten?" "I'm here to understand," Victor said, taking a seat. 7 years of marriage. Was it all a lie? Something flickered in her eyes. Regret, perhaps, or simply calculation. "Not all of it. When did you decide to steal from me?" Natalie sat across from him. "Does it matter?" "Indulge me." She sighed. "About a year ago, after I reconnected with Caleb, I realized I had options. A way out." "You always had options," Victor pointed out. "Divorce lawyers are easy to find. And walk away with what? A settlement that would take years to finalize while you fought it every step of the way." She shook her head. "I wanted more. So you decided to steal $15 million. With your brother's help." "Douglas was the one who figured out how to do it," she admitted. "He knew your security protocols, your habits." Victor nodded slowly. "And the Saudi contract was the perfect opportunity." "We never meant to hurt you," Natalie said, leaning forward. "Just to take what I deserved after 7 years." "What you deserved," Victor repeated flatly. "For lying beside me every night while planning to betray me. You never loved me, Victor. You collected me, like you collect everything else. I was just another acquisition." Victor studied his wife's face, searching for any sign of genuine emotion. "Perhaps you're right. But that doesn't justify theft." "What are you going to do with us?" she asked, fear finally cracking through her composure. "That depends," Victor said, standing up, "on what happens next." He left her room and rejoined Logan and Sophia in the monitoring center, where screens showed all 3 captives in their separate rooms. "They're scared," Sophia observed. "Especially Natalie." "Good," Victor replied. "Fear is clarifying. It strips away pretense." "What's the next step?" Logan asked. Victor checked his watch. "Bring them all to the main room. It's time they understood exactly what they've gotten themselves into." An hour later, Natalie, Douglas, and Caleb sat at a large table in the bunker's central room. Armed guards stood at each exit. Victor entered with Sophia and Logan, carrying a laptop. "I want to show you something," he said, opening the computer and turning it toward them. On the screen was a video feed of a police press conference in Boston. Detective Wright stood at a podium. "We are continuing the search for Natalie Blackwell, Douglas Reed, and Caleb Matthews in connection with the theft of $15 million. We now have evidence suggesting they may have fled the country with the stolen funds. International law enforcement agencies have been notified." Victor closed the laptop. "As far as the world is concerned, you 3 are international fugitives. No one is looking for you here." "You can't just make us disappear," Douglas protested. Can't I? Victor smiled thinly. Who would miss you? Your colleagues think you've stolen millions and fled. Your friends will assume the same. This is insane, Caleb muttered. You're insane. No, Victor replied calmly. I'm methodical. You stole from me, betrayed me, and now you'll face the consequences. What consequences? Natalie demanded. Are you going to kill us? Victor laughed softly. Kill you? No. Death is too simple, too quick. I have something much more appropriate in mind. He placed 3 folders on the table, sliding one to each of them. Inside each folder is a new identity, complete with documentation, background, employment history. Everything you need to start a new life. They stared at him in confusion. New identities? Douglas asked suspiciously. Why would you give us that? Because you're going to work for me, Victor explained. Each of you, in different capacities, in different locations. Natalie, you'll be managing a charitable foundation I've established in Seattle. Douglas, you'll be working as a financial consultant for one of my subsidiaries in Dallas. And Caleb, you'll be the artistic director for a gallery I own in Chicago. You expect us to just work for you? After all this, Natalie said incredulously. I expect you to earn back what you tried to steal, Victor corrected her. Every dollar, plus interest. And if we refuse? Caleb challenged. Victor's expression hardened. Then I turn over evidence of your crimes to the authorities. You go to prison for a very long time. Your choice. This is slavery, Douglas protested. This is justice, Victor countered. You wanted new lives? Now you have them. Just not the ones you planned. He stood up. You have 24 hours to decide. Choose wisely. As he left the room with Sophia and Logan, Sophia spoke quietly. Do you really think they'll agree? They have no choice, Victor replied. Prison or servitude. Most people choose the option that offers some measure of freedom, however limited. And you trust them to work for you? After what they did. Victor's smile was cold. Trust? No. But they'll be closely monitored. Every move, every transaction, every conversation, for the rest of their lives. The trap was complete. Victor had turned their own desire for new identities and fresh starts against them. They would live in gilded cages of his design, always under his control, always aware that their freedom existed only at his pleasure. It wasn't revenge, he told himself. It was justice, calculated, precise, and inescapable, just like everything else in Victor Blackwell's world. Chapter 7. The Sentence. 24 hours later, Victor returned to the bunker's central room where Natalie, Douglas, and Caleb waited with their decisions. Their faces were drawn with stress and lack of sleep. Well, Victor asked, taking his seat at the head of the table. What have you decided? Natalie spoke first, her voice hollow. We'll do it. We don't have a choice. A wise decision, Victor nodded. Now, let me explain exactly how this will work. He opened his laptop and pulled up 3 separate files. Each of you will receive a monthly salary commensurate with your position. Comfortable, but not extravagant. 30% of those earnings will go directly to repaying your debt to me. 30%. Douglas protested. That's non-negotiable, Victor cut him off. At that rate, it will take approximately 15 years to repay what you attempted to steal. With interest. 15 years, Caleb repeated, stunned. Consider it a lenient sentence compared to what you'd receive in federal prison, Victor replied coldly. Furthermore, you will each be assigned a mentor, someone who reports directly to me and will monitor your performance and behavior. He turned to Natalie. The charitable foundation you'll manage focuses on supporting victims of domestic violence and abuse. Ironic, isn't it? You claim to be trapped in an abusive marriage as your excuse for theft. Natalie paled, but said nothing. Douglas, your financial expertise will be put to use helping one of my companies identify potential fraud and embezzlement schemes. You should be quite qualified for that. Douglas clenched his jaw. And Caleb, the Chicago Gallery specializes in promoting emerging artists. You'll have a budget to work with, clients to please, and quarterly targets to meet. Consider it the stable career you never managed to build for yourself. You've thought of everything, Caleb said bitterly. That's what I do, Victor confirmed. Now there are rules. Breaking any of them will result in immediate termination of our arrangement and submission of evidence to the authorities. He pulled up a new document on his laptop. Rule 1. No contact between any of you. Ever. You will live and work in separate cities and never attempt to communicate. That's cruel, Natalie whispered. Rule 2. Monthly financial audits. Every penny you earn or spend will be tracked. No cash transactions over $100 without prior approval. This is insanity, Douglas muttered. Rule 3. Quarterly performance reviews. Fail to meet expectations, and penalties will be added to your debt. What kind of penalties? Caleb asked warily. Financial ones. Extended service time. Nothing physically harmful. I'm not a monster, despite what you might think. Victor continued through the extensive list of restrictions and requirements. By the end, all three looked defeated. You'll be transported to your new locations tomorrow, he concluded. Your mentors will meet you there and help you settle in. As they were led back to their separate rooms, Victor remained at the table, reviewing his notes. Sophia joined him after the others had gone. It's done, she said quietly. Phase 1 is done, Victor corrected her. Now we see if they can be rehabilitated or if they're beyond redemption. You don't really believe they can change, do you? Victor closed his laptop. People seldom change their fundamental nature, but they can learn to control their worst impulses when the consequences are clear. And if they try to run, they won't get far, he assured her. The identities I've given them have certain limitations. Every passport, every ID card contains tracking technology. Every bank account is monitored. Every residence is equipped with surveillance. It's a prison without walls, Sophia observed. It's an opportunity for redemption, Victor countered. More than they deserve. The next day, 3 private jets departed from the Montana ranch, each carrying one of the conspirators to their new lives. Victor watched from the main house as the planes disappeared into the clouds. For most people, this would be enough. The betrayers punished, control reasserted, revenge complete. But Victor wasn't most people. This was just the beginning. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. 1 year into their sentence, Victor reviewed the progress reports on all 3 of his employees. Natalie had thrown herself into running the Seattle Foundation with surprising dedication. Her mentor, Amanda Reeves, reported that she had secured additional funding and expanded programs for abuse victims. Douglas was performing adequately in Dallas, though his mentor noted occasional signs of resentment and resistance to authority. Caleb seemed to be thriving in Chicago. The gallery was showing record profits, and he had discovered several promising new artists. They're adapting, Sophia noted as they reviewed the files in Victor's Boston office. For now, Victor agreed. But the real test comes when they believe they've earned some measure of trust. That test came sooner than expected. 2 weeks later, Victor received an urgent call from Amanda in Seattle. Natalie's gone, she reported. Left her apartment last night. Hasn't shown up for work today. Victor remained calm. Has she left the city? No, her tracking signal is still active. She's at a hotel downtown, registered under her new name. Interesting. Any unusual financial transactions? She withdrew the maximum allowed cash amount 3 days in a row, just under the reporting threshold. I see, Victor said thoughtfully. Don't approach her yet. Let's see what she does. In Chicago, Caleb's mentor reported similar behavior. Cash withdrawals, missed meetings, secretive phone calls. They're coordinating something, Logan suggested when Victor briefed him. Despite the no-contact rule. Indeed, Victor agreed. But how? All their communications are monitored. The answer came from their cybersecurity team. They've been using the public comment sections on obscure art blogs, the analyst explained. Coded messages disguised as opinions about artwork. Victor reviewed the comments personally. Once decoded, the pattern was clear. Natalie and Caleb were planning to escape together. They had been saving cash for months, preparing new fake identities, and arranging transportation to Mexico. What about Douglas? Victor asked. No evidence he's involved, the analyst confirmed. He appears to be complying with all restrictions. Or he's being more careful, Victor mused. Keep watching him. Rather than immediately stopping Natalie and Caleb's escape attempt, Victor decided to let it play out. He wanted to see how far they would go, how determined they were to defy him. 3 days later, Natalie checked out of her Seattle hotel and boarded a flight to Chicago. Victor's team tracked her every move as she met Caleb at a small apartment he had rented under a false name. Inside the apartment, they embraced passionately, unaware that every moment was being recorded by Victor's surveillance team. We did it, Natalie said breathlessly. 1 more day, and we'll be across the border. What about Douglas? Caleb asked. Are you sure he won't come? He says it's too risky. That Victor will catch us. She rolled her eyes. He's become such a coward. We have the new papers? Caleb confirmed. Natalie nodded, patting her bag. Cost a fortune, but they'll get us through the checkpoints. By this time tomorrow, we'll be in Mexico City. Victor watched the feed from his office, his expression unreadable. They never learn, do they? He remarked to Logan. Want me to send in a team? Logan asked. Not yet. Let them get to the border first. The next morning, Natalie and Caleb drove south in a car Caleb had purchased with cash weeks earlier. They reached the Mexican border crossing near Nogales, Arizona by nightfall. As they approached the checkpoint, both were tense but hopeful. Their forged documents had cost nearly $50,000, most of their saved cash. The border guard examined their papers carefully, then smiled. Welcome to Mexico, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. Enjoy your stay. They drove through, breathless with relief. We did it, Caleb exulted once they were a few miles past the border. We're free. Natalie laughed, genuine joy on her face for the first time in over a year. I can't believe it worked. Victor was so sure his system was foolproof. They drove another hour to a small hotel in Nogales, Mexico, where they had reserved a room. After checking in, they celebrated with champagne, making plans for their new life together. South America next, Caleb suggested. Brazil, maybe. Or Argentina. Anywhere, Natalie agreed. As long as it's far from Victor's reach. At 3 a.m, their door burst open. Mexican federal police officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Federal police. Hands where we can see them. Confused and terrified, Natalie and Caleb were handcuffed and separated. An officer showed them an international arrest warrant, with their real names and photos. You are wanted for theft of $15 million in the United States, the officer explained in accented English. You will be extradited immediately. By dawn, they were on a private jet heading back to the United States. Only when they landed did they realize they weren't at a federal facility, but back at Victor's Montana ranch. Victor was waiting for them in the same bunker room where they had been held a year earlier. Welcome back, he greeted them coldly. Enjoy your brief taste of freedom? How? Natalie demanded. The border guards let us through. My border guards, Victor corrected her. In my employ, as were the Mexican federal police who arrested you. That's impossible, Caleb protested. You can't control Mexican authorities. I don't need to control them when I can create a convincing facsimile, Victor explained. You never left U.S. soil. The border crossing was a sophisticated set on private land I own near the actual border. The Mexican hotel was equally fake. Natalie collapsed into a chair, devastated. You let us think we had escaped. You were toying with us. I was teaching you a lesson, Victor corrected her. One you clearly needed. There is no escape from the consequences of your actions. What happens now? Caleb asked, his voice hollow. Now you face the penalty for violating our agreement, Victor said. As specified in the terms you both signed, attempted escape adds 5 years to your service obligation. Additionally, you forfeit all accumulated earnings and will be relocated to less comfortable positions. You're a monster, Natalie whispered. No, Victor replied. I'm simply a man who keeps his promises. I promised there would be consequences if you betrayed me again, and now there are. 2 days later, Natalie was working as an administrative assistant at a remote fishing lodge in Alaska. Caleb was assigned as a janitor at a factory in rural Oklahoma. Their new mentors were former military, more guards than colleagues. Meanwhile, in Dallas, Douglas continued his work, unaware of his sister's and Caleb's failed escape attempt. Victor flew to Dallas personally to meet with him. Your performance reviews have been adequate, Victor told him during their meeting. Not exceptional, but satisfactory. Douglas nodded cautiously. I've been trying to meet expectations. Unlike your sister and her lover, Victor added casually, watching Douglas's reaction. A flash of alarm crossed Douglas's face before he controlled his expression. What do you mean? They attempted to escape to Mexico, using funds they'd been secretly accumulating for months. Communicating through coded messages online. Victor studied him carefully. Messages you helped create. Douglas's face paled. I don't know what you're talking about. Victor placed a folder on the table and opened it to reveal printouts of emails between Douglas and a digital security expert specializing in encryption. You created the coding system they used, Victor stated flatly. More sophisticated than either of them could manage on their own. You helped them plan the escape, even though you chose not to join them. Douglas slumped in his chair, defeated. What happens now? Now, Victor said. We renegotiate our arrangement. Chapter 9. The Legacy. 5 years after the failed theft, Victor sat in his Boston penthouse, reviewing the quarterly reports on his 3 captives. Natalie had earned a slight improvement in her circumstances after 3 years of perfect compliance in Alaska. She now managed a small bookstore in Portland, Oregon, still under surveillance, still paying her debt. Caleb had been moved from janitorial work to teaching art at a rural high school in Idaho, where, as Minter reported, he was showing genuine dedication to his students. Douglas had proven the most interesting case. After his role in the escape attempt was discovered, Victor had offered him a choice: additional punishment or a chance to earn redemption by using his skills to strengthen Blackwell's security systems against exactly the kind of fraud he had attempted. Surprisingly, Douglas had embraced the challenge, developing sophisticated protocols that had significantly improved the company's security architecture. He remained in Dallas, still under supervision, but with gradually increasing responsibility and freedom. You seem thoughtful today, Sophia remarked as she entered Victor's office with updated files. I'm considering the nature of justice, Victor replied, and whether people can truly change. And your conclusion? Still evolving. He closed the file he was reviewing. Any update on Natalie's request? Sophia nodded. She's asking again to be allowed to contact her brother. Claims it's been 5 years of good behavior, and she deserves some consideration. Victor considered this. What do her psychological evaluations show? Genuine remorse, according to Dr. Hansen, though he cautions that she's become adept at projecting what she thinks we want to see. Haven't we all? Victor murmured. The intercom buzzed, and his assistant's voice came through. Mr. Blackwell, Detective Wright is here to see you. Victor raised an eyebrow in surprise. Send her in. Olivia Wright, now retired from the police force and working as a private investigator, entered the office. 5 years had added silver to her hair, but none to her sharp intelligence. Mr. Blackwell, she greeted him. Thank you for seeing me without an appointment. Detective Wright. Or is it private investigator right now? She smiled slightly. Just Ms. Wright will do. May we speak privately? Victor nodded to Sophia, who left the room, closing the door behind her. What can I do for you, Ms. Wright? Victor asked once they were alone. I've been doing some research, she said, setting her briefcase on the desk. Into disappearances. Specifically, those of your wife, her brother, and Caleb Matthews. Victor's expression remained neutral. I thought that case was closed years ago. International fugitives, presumed living under false identities somewhere in South America. That was the official conclusion, Wright agreed. But I never liked loose ends. She opened her briefcase and removed a file. And there were so many loose ends in that case. Such as how 3 amateurs managed to create such sophisticated false identities. How they disappeared so completely that not a single transaction, phone call, or sighting has been recorded in 5 years. How the money was never traced, never spent. Victor leaned back in his chair. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything yet, Wright replied. I'm asking questions. Like why a certain charitable foundation in Seattle has a director whose background checks reveal inconsistencies. Or why an art teacher in Idaho appeared in the system 5 years ago with no prior history. Or why a financial consultant in Dallas bears a striking resemblance to Douglas Reed if you look past the beard and different hairstyle. Victor's eyes narrowed slightly. You've been busy. I have a lot of time since retirement, Wright acknowledged. And resources you might not expect. What do you want? Wright closed her file. The truth. Did they steal your money, Mr. Blackwell? Or did you set them up? Did they flee the country? Or did you ensure they disappeared? Those are serious accusations, Victor said quietly. Based on what evidence? Circumstantial, at present, Wright admitted. But compelling enough that I could take it to former colleagues. Generate quite a lot of uncomfortable questions for you. Victor studied her carefully, then made a decision. Hypothetically, Ms. Wright, if someone betrayed me, tried to steal from me, I might consider it my right to ensure they faced consequences. Vigilante justice isn't legal, Mr. Blackwell. Even hypothetically. Neither is theft, he countered. Or conspiracy. Or fraud. They stared at each other in silence for a long moment. 3 people disappeared, Wright said finally. Their families deserve to know what happened to them. Their families? Victor raised an eyebrow. Natalie's parents died years before our marriage. Douglas was her only family, and Caleb's relatives hadn't spoken to him in over a decade. No one is looking for them, Ms. Wright. Except you. Because it's the right thing to do. Is it? Victor leaned forward. Let's say, hypothetically, that these 3 people attempted a serious crime. And let's say someone ensured they faced consequences while still having a chance at eventual redemption. Would exposing that situation serve justice? Or merely your curiosity? Wright frowned. If you've imprisoned them. I said nothing about imprisonment. Victor cut her off. Hypothetically, they might be living productive lives, repaying their debt to society in ways the legal system could never enforce. That's not your decision to make, Wright insisted. Perhaps not, Victor conceded. But it is a decision that's been made. And unmade now would cause more harm than good. Wright studied him, then slowly repacked her files. This isn't over, Mr. Blackwell. I wouldn't expect it to be, he replied. You're too thorough for that. After she left, Victor immediately called Logan. We have a problem. Olivia Wright is asking questions about our 3 friends. How serious? Serious enough. She's connected dots we need to disconnect quickly. Relocate all 3 immediately. New identities, new locations. And Wright. Victor considered this carefully. No direct action. She's too high profile, too connected. We'll need a more subtle approach. Find leverage. Everyone has vulnerabilities. But nothing permanent, nothing traceable. That evening, as Victor stood on his penthouse balcony with a glass of scotch, he reflected on the path that had brought him here. The betrayal had changed him, hardened something in him that had already been coldly pragmatic. His phone buzzed with a message from Logan, relocation in progress. Right situation under control. Victor put down his scotch and made a decision. He placed a call to the Montana ranch where Sophia was overseeing security upgrades. It's time for the final phase, he told her. Prepare the property for visitors. 1 week later, Natalie, Douglas, and Caleb found themselves brought together for the first time in 5 years, back at the Montana ranch where their punishment had begun. Victor met them in the main house rather than the bunker. They had all changed visibly. Natalie's face showed lines of strain and weathering from the harsh Alaskan climate. Caleb's artistic hands were calloused from years of manual labor before his teaching position. Douglas's once immaculate appearance was now more rugged, with a trim beard and longer hair. I'm sure you're wondering why you're here, Victor began. Another punishment? Natalie asked bitterly. Another lesson in your power over us. No, Victor surprised them by saying. A reckoning. A conclusion. He activated a screen on the wall showing Detective Wright's investigation materials. Someone has been looking into your disappearances, asking questions about your current identities. The situation has become complicated. You're worried about being exposed, Douglas realized. Your perfect system threatened. Perhaps, Victor acknowledged. But it also presents an opportunity to resolve our arrangement. What does that mean? Caleb asked warily. It means I'm offering you a choice, Victor explained. A final choice. He distributed folders to each of them. Option 1. New identities, even more secure than before, relocated internationally. Continue your service for the remaining 10 years of your obligation. They looked at him suspiciously. Option 2, he continued. Your debt is considered paid. You receive new identities, a moderate sum to start over, and your freedom, with certain conditions. No contact with each other. No contact with me or my businesses. No returning to your former lives. Why would you offer this? Natalie asked, disbelief evident in her voice. Because you've served 5 years of your sentence. Because maintaining this arrangement has become more complicated than it's worth. And because, perhaps, you've earned a chance at redemption. There's a catch, Douglas said flatly. There's always a catch with you. The catch is that you remain dead to the world, Victor confirmed. Your former identities remain missing or deceased. You build new lives completely separate from the past. Break that condition, attempt to expose what happened, and everything I have on your original crimes goes public immediately. The 3 exchanged glances, hope warring with suspicion. How do we know you'll keep your word? Caleb challenged. Because it benefits me to do so, Victor replied honestly. Because maintaining an elaborate punishment system is ultimately less productive than allowing you to become productive members of society, away from me and mine. I never thought you'd let us go, Natalie said quietly. I'm not doing it for you, Victor corrected her. I'm doing it because the resources required to continue monitoring you are better deployed elsewhere. He gestured to the folders. You have 1 hour to decide. When he returned, all three had chosen option 2. A wise choice, Victor commented. Your new documentation and financial arrangements are in these envelopes. You'll be taken to separate international airports and flown to your new destinations. From there, your lives are your own, within the specified restrictions. Just like that, after 5 years of control, you're just letting us go? Douglas asked. With monitoring that will continue indefinitely, Victor clarified. Break the terms, contact each other, attempt to reveal what happened, and the consequences will be swift and irreversible. As they prepared to leave, Natalie approached Victor. I have one question. That day, when you gave me the money to watch, you knew what we were planning, didn't you? The bags I took contained mostly counterfeit money. Yes, Victor confirmed. Along with tracking devices and listening equipment. I knew about your plans for months. Why did you let it happen? Why not stop us before we acted? Victor's expression was cold. Because people reveal their true nature through actions, not intentions. You had to make the choice to betray me before you could face the consequences. And now, why really let us go? Because holding on to vengeance indefinitely diminishes the victor as much as the vanquished, he said after a moment. This way, you live with what you did, with what it cost you, with the knowledge that your freedom exists only because I allow it. 3 days later, Victor received confirmation that all three had reached their designated locations. Natalie in New Zealand, Caleb in Portugal, and Douglas in Canada. Each had been provided with modest housing, new identification, and enough money to start small businesses appropriate to their skills. Sophia joined Victor in his office as he reviewed the final reports. It's really over? She asked. This chapter is, Victor agreed. Olivia Wright has been dealt with as well. A prestigious private investigation opportunity in Europe that was too good to pass up. She'll be occupied for at least a year. And if they break the terms, try to find each other. Victor's expression hardened. Then they'll discover the true meaning of consequences. The evidence packages I've prepared would ensure they spend the rest of their lives in maximum security. But I don't think they will. They've learned their lesson. And you? What have you learned from all this? Sophia asked quietly. Victor was silent for a long moment. That betrayal is inevitable. That trust is a weakness I can't afford. And that true power isn't in punishment, but in the ability to grant mercy or withhold it. That night, as he stood again on his penthouse balcony, Victor reflected on the empty space where Natalie had once stood beside him. He felt no regret, no loss, only a cold certainty that he had done what was necessary. Justice had been served, on his terms. The world continued turning. And Victor Blackwell remained untouchable, a man who had turned betrayal into victory. For Victor knew a truth his betrayers would never understand. The real power wasn't in the punishment itself, but in knowing he could have destroyed them completely, and choosing not to. That was the ultimate control, the final victory. His empire remained. Their lives existed at his pleasure, and they would never forget it. When he had collapsed laughing after finding Natalie's note, it wasn't just because the bag she took contained mostly counterfeit money. It was because in that moment, he realized he had anticipated and orchestrated every move in a game they didn't even know they were playing. In the end, that was Victor Blackwell's legacy, not the billions he had amassed or the empire he had built, but the knowledge that no one who betrayed him would ever truly escape the consequences he designed. It was, he decided as he sipped his scotch, enough. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.